My name is Paul Taylor. I'm the Community Recreation Officer for the Horsham District Sports Development Team at Horsham District Council.
My name is Ian Ford. I'm Sports Development Officer for Horsham District Council.
So my role as the Community Recreation Officer deals with 50 plus and disability, as well as girls' activities. So yeah, we try to cater for as broad a range of groups within the Horsham District as possible. We set up and run clubs for people aged 50 plus. So back in 1995, I helped set up at Broadchief Leisure Centre a specific 50 plus club that's been running ever since. They attract about 200 people of that over 50 age on a Thursday at the Leisure Centre, taking part in a range of different activities, including short mat bowls, tennis, table tennis, arts and crafts activities. We also run a 50 club at the Holbrook Club called the Young at Heart Club. We also run some low-intensity game sessions in residential homes and sheltered housing units for older people. And recently we had a 104-year-old lady playing new age curling in one of those sessions. So that tends to be sort of like the elderly, sort of 70s, 80s, and I say more recently a 104-year-old playing skittles. So it's about providing opportunities and activities for people to keep active in older life.
I've taken some sport-specific projects forward with older people, examples being table tennis. Got a walking basketball taster that is coming up shortly. Walking football is an expanding sport within the district to cater for older people. And perhaps the most unusual thing I encountered working with older people was a request from a 90-year-old who wanted to get involved for the first time in doing pole vault. That was quite a few years ago, and he was preparing for some kind of charity event and wanted to get some training in preparation for it.
Locally in the Horsham District, we've got an ageing population, and the idea of running 50 plus clubs, as they started, we were approached as a council to run something from a group of older people who they didn't have activities and opportunities to take part in activity once they'd sort of retired. So we sort of helped set up, the Club 50 Plus Club at Broadchief Leisure Centre. And what we found over the sort of like the years is that those people have sort of continued sort of taking part in those activities. So 25 years on at Broadchief, we've still got people that started as 50-year-olds that are now still coming and taking part. And it's not just about the participation in the activity and the element of trying to keep fit. There's a big social element.
I point to the rise in and development of sports development as a practice. Basically, it started in the mid-1980s, particularly focused on inner city areas and including young, disengaged people. But as it's developed through the years, and more local authorities have taken sports development officers on, and agencies like Sport England have channeled funding towards sports development areas. Working with older people is one of the areas which has been encouraged for local authorities and other sports development agencies to get more people active, and for the contribution it makes to health, social objectives.
There's a number of people that come along that possibly have lost husbands or wives, and therefore feel a little bit isolated. And their engagement in coming to the 50 plus clubs, some of them don't actually engage in the activity. They are purely there for the element of meeting up with friends and feeling that they've got someone to talk to and feel engaged in that way, as opposed to being at home on their own and isolated. So another part of my role as the Community Recreation Officer is to engage and work with disabled people of all ages. And to put a bit of background into that, we started a disability club. It actually was before I started, so it's been going it celebrates its 25th anniversary this year. But in 1991, we set up something called the Ready and Able Disability Sports Club, which was a specific sports club for adults with disabilities, and that was at Christ Hospital as a partnership arrangement with that particular leisure centre. We run a number of sporting activities on a Monday evening. Things include basketball, football, table tennis, badminton, new age curling, boccia, which are sort of specific games for disabled people, and the boccia is a Paralympic event, and that, has been running for 25 years. So we've got a good history within Horsham of providing opportunities for disabled people. We started in 1999, so again after I started, I helped set up a Forest Flyers Disability Football Club where we had young disabled people excluded from playing football opportunities in mainstream, so they were sort of like not included at their school because they couldn't be catered for on their needs. So we helped set up, and that's been going ever since 1999. This Forest Flyers Football Club. They train weekly on Saturday mornings at the Forest Recreation Centre, and they also play football games against other disability football clubs across Sussex. More recently, 7 years ago, we were fortunate to receive funding here in Horsham from the short breaks scheme that West Sussex County Council operated, and that funding allowed us to provide a range of activities, sports and arts courses for young disabled people aged 5 to 18. That continues to run now, and at the moment we've got 12 weekly sports and arts activities taking part across the district, and we've just been successful with further funding from West Sussex County Council for another 3 years.
Sport England commissions a survey called Active People, which measures adult participation in sport and active recreation, and it's been well established that fewer disabled people take part in sporting activities for all kinds of reasons, so it does require particular investment and focus to address that inequality, and we're part of the efforts towards doing that.
7 years ago, setting up the Reaching Higher project, the reason that came about was there was a group of parents who had children at mainstream schools, and many years ago it was almost, if you had a disabled child, that they would go to a special school. But now there's about 85 to 90% of children with additional needs that are actually at school in mainstream schools. 7 years ago, this group of parents had children who weren't able to access the after-school clubs, so their children weren't able to take part with their friends in an after-school club. They were able to take part within the school day, and additional needs and support were put in place. But the element of taking part after school, the school said they couldn't cater for that. So there was a growing demand in our area for opportunities. Some of these parents tried to access activities at leisure centres to keep their children involved and to keep them active. And they found that the leisure centres unfortunately didn't have the appropriate levels of staffing needs to sort of accommodate their children, and they weren't necessarily engaged as much as they could be. I was approached, and I worked in partnership with this group of people, and we helped set up a group called You Can Do It, who were able to access funding to put on specific sports activities for young disabled people, and it was done in an inclusive environment whereby siblings were able to take part as well. So there was one particular lady that felt she was a bit of a taxi service. She had 3 children, and she was dropping off one child to one activity for a mainstream activity. Her child with additional needs was then sort of engaged and had to be taken to a different activity. So what we set up within the You Can Do It project, and we've mirrored with the Reaching Higher project that still runs, is about providing opportunities whereby a family can actually sort of have all their children take part. They're not segregated. So we try to do it in an inclusive way, and to try and to get more people in the community aware that just because you've got a child with additional need doesn't mean that they can't take part in activities that mainstream children can. So it's trying to break down barriers and make more people in society aware.
Girls' sport is another one of our objectives in the sports development team, to address the fact that particularly as children go into their teenage years, it's well known that more girls drop off from sport than boys comparatively. So we're keen to address that drop off, and also as girls go into adulthood, that there's plenty of opportunities for them to come back into sport. So projects that we've done include lots of netball work. Girls football is another sport we've done quite a lot of work with, and Horsham Sparrows in the town of Horsham have particularly done a good job of now providing for girls teams and developing players.
Other girls projects that we've run over the last few years have been, we've done some girls-specific golf activity through Horsham Golf and Fitness Club. They've identified that there's not the same number of girls playing golf as there are boys. So through Sportivate funding from Active Sussex, they were able to sort of go in and to deliver some specific girls-only golf sessions at Millay School, and those girls were then given the opportunity to come back and continue playing golf at Horsham Golf and Fitness. Horsham Junior Baseball Club, that celebrates its 10th anniversary this year, that was set up in 2006, was a baseball club set up for boys and girls. And when it first started, we had a fairly even split of boys and girls taking part. It was a new activity that hadn't been played before in 2006. A lot of work was done in the local primary schools to sort of to provide the children with how to play the game. So lots of taster sessions, and within a couple of years, we had over 200 boys and girls playing at the baseball club. When they get into secondary age, the sort of like the game splits, and boys focused on baseball and girls focused on softball, which is a slightly different game. And we managed to sort of get some funding to do some girls softball activity. And we've been quite fortunate that there's a couple of girls that have actually gone on to represent Great Britain.
Girls and women's sport is not just a local priority, it's a national priority. There are agencies that have it as their main focus. For example, the Women's Sport Foundation put a lot of work into trying to promote girls and women's sport. And also Sport England, they have, in fairly recent times, launched a big project called This Girl Can. So, yeah, it is a national priority, it's not just locally. I think it's important that it's not that to consider positions of influence. So that really is about, can we develop and capitalise on role models within the sport, so girls have people to look up to, that they can relate to. Also, developing female coaches is important. So it's we. Again, have role models for young girls to aspire to be and to cater for sport, and also to get more women on club committees in positions of authority, so that the perspective of girls and women in sport to make them feel welcome is considered.
Within sort of tag rugby, as an activity in local primary schools, we put an emphasis on the element of boys playing with girls. So when we run our tournaments and festivals, we make sure that it's a mixed activity, and that schools have to engage boys and girls within that team playing, to give girls that opportunity and to feel part of something. We've done a lot of work on girls football. I say specifically, we run girls only football tournaments to provide those opportunities. And I think if young girls and young and women are given those opportunities to play and to feel that, to feel success and to feel that it's part of what they should be doing, hopefully they'll continue that on later in life. In summary, the work that I do as the Community Recreation Officer at Horsham District Council embraces all people throughout the community. So that's all races, all religions, all ages, male and female, older people, girls. Everybody within the community is given an opportunity from the activities that we provide to take part in sport. Sport is such a fantastic vehicle for people to engage and to feel part of something, to feel good, to be active.
Friends, health, fitness, purpose. So I think it's really important that everybody, no matter what their type or characteristics, is has the opportunity to benefit from sport. Opportunity for all is really important.